Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Vande, Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Moti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tama Gocharam Govindam Paramanantam Satguru Pranato Shmaham Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. We'll welcome. We'll go on with our Viveka Sudamani. So I may go a little slower today because I am very, very tired. And I was since early this morning doing a lot of shopping here with Sylvia, which can be something very, very challenging when she stopped on a row to choose something for the bathroom for 1 hour because she did not find the perfect blue, for example. No? So we begin from the verse 95. So actually we begin the session of the karma of the karma of the liberated. So how is the karma for the yoni? The verse 95 says that the results of actions done before liberation fructify like an arrow released from a bow. So we have unfolded this subject a few times in the past class about the action of the yoni and the results of the actions as one's parabdha karma in relation to the yoni. And here we have this statement that it's very common among the Vedantic crowd that says that there is parabdha karma only for the yoni. So meaning to say, even the yoni has to deal with parabdha karma. The results of past actions will also affect the liberated person, okay? The person who knows who he is, okay? So all the results of previous actions done in these lives and previous births, previous lives as well, will fructify according to its laws, these general karmic ethic laws which are under the power of Ishvara. It does not belong to the human laws. It belongs to the laws of the field, the laws of Ishvara. The results of actions done before fructify just like an arrow that is released, and it's going to take its course until it manifests meaning to say it reaches its destination. So there is no way it won't manifest. So now, in which way the liberated one is going to experience this karma? Okay, in which way it does not experience, because this statement can be challenged, because the liberated one is going to deal with the results of past actions, okay, in the same way, because it relates to actions which were present to the field in previous births and in this birth before self-realization became hard and fast, okay? So the hard and fast effect of self-realization helps the individual no longer to identify as the doer. And when we place actions without that firm identification, I am the doer here, and then what happens with the results of such actions? The results of such actions are not really sent to the one who place the action without the sense of ownership, doership, authorship. Because what brings about the karma, the results back to the doer, is the sense of doership. So the yoni is the one who gradually stops putting actions with sense of ownership, authorship, and doership. Therefore, he stops feeding actions into this karmic system. So it stops bringing its agams, karma's actions into the field with a sense of doership. And then the system starts shrinking. But there are some sanchitas that have to manifest as parabat because what was already sent or brought into the field with a sense of doership is going to manifest and it's going to come back to the liberated one. But as we know, the liberated one has the option when the action comes, the result of action comes back to him, he has the option to say what? Oh, it's coming here. I'm not going to take from my lower nature as a jiva, I'm going to remain established in my higher nature as consciousness. And then I know that there is no way results of actions can come to me, and moreover, I will never even own it, even receiving it on my lower nature as a Jivan Mukta. I'm not going to own it. Why? Because the person with this spiritual knowledge knows that actions and results of actions belong to Ishvara. You understand? So the whole system, the whole dynamics of actions and results of actions, they seen as belonging to Ishvara, or Ishvara operates as Jivas, and even the Jivan Mukta, experience the results of past actions that which comes as present circumstance. Still, he sees it as all belonging to Ishvara. Okay, so therefore, the results of actions done before liberation fructify like an arrow released from a bow. It does fructify, but to what degree it does fructify to the Jivan Mukta? It does not really fructify, and in the next verse, maybe we will see it more clearly. It will fructify to the body because the body belongs to Ishvara. You understand? So the body brings about the sense of doership and ownership. The subtle body associated with the body brings about the sense of I am the doer, through my organs and instruments of actions and reception and so on. So I'm the doer, I'm the one receiving and doing actions here. So this body belongs to Shwara. So when the results of actions fructify and come back to the Jiva Mukta, he knows that it's coming to my body, and the body belongs to Ishvara, belongs to this order of reality called Pratibhasika, okay? It belongs to the Pratibhasika Satyan, the order of reality controlled, by Ishvara, Maya, Ishvara. Therefore, the Jiva Mukta remains in truth free from those results. But what does not remain free from those results is what? Body. Because the body belongs to Ishvara. And these laws operate in the field impersonally. Ishvara does not care whether someone is self-realized or not. It brings back the karma to that body. Okay, but ignorance was removed. The subtle body, the Jiva Atma no longer identifies with the body. And then what happens to the results of action that would come to the body, which was attached to the Jiva, because the Jiva was attached to the body. Now the Jiva is no longer attached to the body. It stops at the body. You understand? And that's what we see when some of our Mahatmas, our great sages like Ramana Maharaj, receives that Prarabdha karma and suffers great pain in the body. And so quite a few other enlightened, beings I have known and been in contact. So the pain comes, the suffering comes, but it comes to the body because the sense of identification with the body as the body has been destroyed, has been cut. Okay? So the commentary here is saying that the body is a manifestation of past action. And this is interesting to know that our bodies is a byproduct of all previous actions we did in previous births and this birth, because every action we are doing, is fructifying in a way that modifies our body according to our desires and fears, our vasanas, okay? And according to the use and misuse of the body as well. So the body is going to show up, and it's going to show up as a manifestation of everything that we did. And not only we did, but we wish to do. Because our desires also keeps creating, manifesting the body that we need to fulfill or to try to accomplish those desires and fears. So here it says the body is a manifestation of past action. It takes shape from what we have done, and it takes shape from what we wish to do, from the standpoint of past lives and present lives. So when we are without a body, what brings about a body and what shapes a body and designs the body are our vasanas. And our vasanas are all the sanshitas, the results of previous actions. And not only that, and all the desires and fears. You understand? The desires and fears are going to shape the body. In the same way, all the sanchita karmas are going to shape the body. You understand? Because we get the results, we get what we deserve. So whatsoever we have there as results is going to condition our body plus all our desires and fears. So the body takes shape from what we have done in the past and what we wish to do in the future. The body is not like individual ignorance on the same level of imaginary reality. So the body is not on the same level. The body is on the level of Vyavaharika, okay? It's in the level, it's the order of reality belonging to Ishvara. It's not the level of imaginary reality belonging to the Jiva, which is Pratibhastika, okay? So the body is there, belongs to Ishvara, and the body is a byproduct of previous actions and desires and fears, and it does not belong to the Jiva, meaning to say it's not part of our imaginary reality. The body belongs to Ishvara, and it's going to be impacted by our past actions. It's empirical. In the words of the tradition, the body is a manifestation of Ishvara, cosmic ignorance. As such, it does not disappear when individual ignorance disappears. So I want to go back to explain better that point. The body is not in the hands of Jiva. So Jiva projects and creates reality by its desires and fears and its interpretations of the physical material reality projected by Maya Ishvara. So Maya Ishvara projects Pratibhasika, and the Jiva looks at Pratibhasika and creates, Vyavaharika, which is her own interpretation of reality. So the body belongs to Ishvara. Ishvara projected, okay? The Jiva has no power over the body. So the Jiva removes its ignorance, its individual ignorance, which belongs to its own Pratibhasika, okay? Ignorance, it's the way Jiva experiences and apprehends the world as it is, as projected by Maheshwara. So we have this, and then the jiva he may remove ignorance which belongs to its imaginary reality, its psychological condition, the way we see reality, media reality, of course. So the jiva has the power to play with its own pratibhasika, okay, removing ignorance and seeing reality as it is. But the body belonging to Ishvara, the jiva has no power over the body, and the body is going to receive back the results of its karma, although on the imaginary level, the ignorance was already removed. You understand this point? Or it was a little bit confused. When I'm a little bit more tired, I'm not as clear to explain these things. In the words of the tradition, if anybody has any doubt, please stop me and interact with me. In the words of the tradition, the body is a manifestation of Shwara, which is cosmic ignorance. So this cosmic ignorance is this projection of duality in which the jiva is forced to identify with the body as the body. This is the universal ignorance. And this body appears, it's a manifestation of Ishvara that produces, this duality, and is considered ignorance because it deceives all jivas. You understand? The jivas identifies with the body, believes that duality is reality, and gets all agitated and concerned about its life, and the fact that it experienced so much limitations. As such, the body does not disappear when the individual ignorance disappears. The verse compares the karma of the liberated to an arrow that has already been released from the bound and must continue until it hits its mark. Parabhada karma. Its path cannot be halted in mid-flight, as we know. So I think we all have had that experience. Sometimes we wish we haven't said something, we haven't done something, we haven't expressed our irritation or anything, But then when we see it's already, it's already out there. And then its repercussions will be there, One's own inner, response to that, and on the other side of the field, others may come with a response. So when we put something in the field, and then we know that it cannot be stopped, it's going to manifest, and we better be prepared to deal with it, to deal with karma, and try to resolve karma, to take care of things, If there is conflict with others or one's life situation, we have to work to clear those conflicts. A further illustration is often given. A group of 10 men, this is a nice metaphor. A group of 10 men cross a stream. When they reach the other side of the stream, the leader counts only 9, neglecting to include himself, and believes that one of the men has drowned. Lamenting the loss, he bangs his head against a tree. It is a little variation of the 10th man story. In this case, he gets so desperate that he just bangs his head and then he starts hurting very bad. And then somebody comes and says, hey, we counted it again and we realized that you were the 10th person and nobody got lost, So the wound was already bandaged, The pain in the head was already there. But then what happened? The body was already suffering the results. But somebody comes and tells him, nobody was lost. Everybody is in here. It was a miscounting, misunderstanding. So all is good. So immediately that psychological problem, he was grieving, he was lamenting, he was suffering because some immediate death was released. There was everything was gone. And he was so happy. But the body was still suffering the bank. So the pain in his head carried on. You understand? So that's the mean. So the wound is bandaged, but while this ministration is taking place, his mistake is explained to him. His ignorance and his consequent sorrow are removed, but the wound to his head remains. So the head is still hurting, but there are two levels of pain. So psychological pain and physical pain. So a psychological pain, which is a pain in the butt, is over, and that can be removed by knowledge, by understanding, okay, by seeing things in harmony with the truth, as they are, as it is projected by Maheshwara, you know. But the pain, the pain remains and stays for as long as it exhausts its parabodha karma, okay, the physical pain. When we realize the self, we are liberated from our ignorance, our personal ignorance. But the body must still endure the effect of any action that has already been set in motion. Again, the same point. So the body belongs to Ishvara. Ishvara is making all jivas to do actions with a sense of doership and ownership and authorship until the jiva becomes wise and realize that there is some other force doing it, and actually my true essential nature is free and does not do anything. You understand? So the body belongs to Ishvara. The body must endure the effects of all previous actions, but the liberated one does not really take that karma, In truth, there is no karma for the liberated, not even parabodha karma, because the liberated is going to say, okay, it goes to the body. There is nobody there identified with the body saying, this is my body, my body, my body. And then what happened to that kind of poor body? The body goes and he runs back to Ishwara and say, hey, Ishwara, you deal with this karma, because that jiva there is no longer involved, something like that. Yes, David?
Um, when you say body, does that include mind? Are you
Huh?
saying body mind? Are you saying body mind, or is it just body?
Well, this is there is a very subtle. It's good you bring good questions all again and again every time. So I like to present this like this verse says that the body is going to hurt, the body is going to receive the karma, okay? But the Jiva Atma, now being identified as Atma, the self, okay, is no longer owning the body and say, I am the body, okay? So the body is going to be, you know, orphan, how you say, orphan. He's going to be without the Jiva who was owning the body. You understand? So now the body, as we know, is just a meat tube, as Ramji puts it. It's inert. There is nothing there. It is kept alive by the subtle body. But the Jiva Atma is not the subtle body. You understand? So when we say body-mind complex, is the three bodies, okay? The causal, the subtle, and the physical body. But as you have seen in some of these teachings, I always like to clarify that the Jiva Atma is not the subtle body. So the subtle body, the body-mind complex, in fact, it's the three bodies that brings about Jiva Atma, okay? But then it comes a point that the Jiva Atma says, like, I'm none of these three bodies because I have studied the Viveka Chudamani and I have negated the three bodies, I have negated the five sheets, the three states, and so on. Okay? So the Jiva Atma is part of this body-mind complex, but it is not really because it can just walk away from it, you understand? And claim its identity as consciousness because Jiva Atma and Paramatma, what is in common there is Atma. Both are the self, but the three bodies are just energy. The three bodies being energy, they don't really have the possibility to claim any identity with Paramatma because they are inert, they are insentient. You understand the difference? So the body-mind complex can be seen, the body-mind construct can be seen as the subtle body attached to the physical body, backed up by its causal body. But the Jivatma is a different phenomenon. The Jivatma is the self reflected in this body-mind complex, because when we say that it reflects on the subtle body, that is technically correct, but the subtle body is not going to produce a Jiva Atma unless it has a physical body to be attached to, you understand? To produce the phenomenal Jiva Atma. Jiva Atma is the one who is really able to operate this piece of equipment, go through its awakening state, you understand? And then experience and learn from experience, grow, mature until it begins searching to discover its true nature. So this is the Jivatma. Okay? So your question was the body. The body must still endure the effects. So if I would say the body-mind would still endure the effects of actions, what that would mean? Would mean that the body mind, it would mean that the mind of the Jivan Mukta would be still suffering the results of previous actions. You understand? The body mind. No, the mind of the Jivan Mukta, you know, in order to be said to be a liberated being, you know, should be detached to the body in a way that the psychological problem, you know, that can be experienced, difficulties with adversities and bad parabdha karma, negative papa karmas, and so on, you know, it should not affect the mind of the jiva when it has this self-knowledge is hard and fast and firm and solid. You understand? What I'm trying to say is, if I would say that the body mind will endure the results of previous actions, it means that the Jivamukta is really suffering the results of past actions. But we are making a final line here, you know, a clear cut say like the body is going to suffer, but then we have to see what is the body and what's the mind. You understand? With everything here is so subtle. Because when we look back into the situation of Ramana Maharaj, I mean, I was so close to all his words and teachings during those years with Papaji and the subsequent years as well. And I read everything which was available. I had a huge library of all books I could get my hands in about Ramana Maharaj. And it was very clear that his body was in extreme pain, and his mind was also affected, you understand, because a weak, suffering, a paining body, you know, impacts the mind, and the mind becomes more tamasic as well, you understand. But the body mind complex, you know, and now we have to make a distinction between the body mind complex, because the energy and matter in that case, you know, the mind and the physical body, if the body goes ill and sick and very tired and tamasic, the mind is again a little tired and tamasic, okay? But the Jiva Mukta is the one who knows, I'm not my mental condition, I'm not the body mind, you understand? So it's very, very fine distinction there. But in this verse, and generally speaking, we can say that the body is going to take the blame, take the results, okay? And the mind of the Jiva Mukta will be impacted by certain circumstances, especially some very painful conditions, okay? Results of actions which affect the body, not only the mind, but the physical body, like a cancer. Okay, so the mind may be affected, or life circumstance with a lot of adversities. It's going to affect the mind of the Jiva Mukta, but the Jiva Mukta is the one who has a clear view and understanding that I'm not this mental condition. You know? So we can say that the body mind must still endure the effects of any actions that has already been set in motion. We can also say that, Dave, that's why your question is very, very enriching this conversation, because the body and the mind, they all belong to the same order of reality, in the sense that it's all media, it's all the body mind, you understand? And the body, the matter, the gross energy, which is matter, affects subtle energy, which is the mind, thoughts, and so on. You see, when we look into the spiritual path, there are a lot of people who get into spirituality working on the physical level, because when we work on the physical level, the mind gets the benefit, okay? When we do a lot of physical work, including yoga, hot yoga and all those asanas. So the mind is going to relax because the body is being relaxed. On the other hand, we know that if we are in a good condition and then the mind start experiencing a lot of stress, and then what happens to the body? The body also gets the impact of the mind and its stress as well. So the bottom line is the body mind is one single organism, it is integrate organism. So we can work directly into the mind because it's more effective, but it's a little bit more for advanced people. Most people need to work on the physical level as well, like I did through my own process, as I have explained a few times to you. Verse 96. An arrow intended for a tiger does not stop mid-flight when the archer realized that he mistook the cow for a tiger. So in India, we see this Vedic context, to mistake a cow for a tiger is a big deal, because cow is said to be a sacred being or God, so the giver of the milk of life and so on. So it is something big. So it's a mistake that you don't want to do. And here it is again, reinforcing the fact that this arrow, if it was an action that we send, and halfway we realize, oh my God, this is absolutely inadequate, inappropriate, wrong response, okay? So it's not going to stop mid-flight. It's not going to stop. It's already going, and it's going to reach its destination. It's the same concept, okay? The effects of ignorance may continue, as illustrated in the previous example of the man who banged his head against the tree due to an illusory loss. This verse further elucidates that point. Action set in motion due to a misconception, such as identification with the body mind, must complete their course even though we no longer labor under that misconception. Very nice. So it says that an action that is set in motion due to a basic misconception, which is I am the body, I feel incomplete, I feel limited, and I do actions to complete myself. And the action is totally rooted into this misconception, misidentification, and it's going to go its course. And the end result is going to be more papa, more ignorance, more results that are going to not be favorable to my spiritual growth. Why? It was an action which was presented based on those ignorant vasanas, which is I am the body mind and I do actions because I want what I want and so on. So an action set in motion due to a misconception such as the identification with the body mind in the case of this verse is like, whoa, this is a beautiful tiger. Huh? It's a great deer. And then when you see it is a misperception, a misconception, but the action is already taken. It's going to manifest all actions that we have done under this misconception. I am the body mind. I am the author. I am the thinker of my thoughts. I am the owner of my actions and I am responsible for the results of action. All those actions that we have present with that sense of doership will come back to us, will manifest and come back to the one who has present that. But as we have said, so the yoni has a choice due to its clear and firm self-knowledge, it's not going to own when it comes. When it comes, the yan is going to react to it more or less like that. Oh, too late. You understand? Too late. I no longer claim my past actions, and therefore I no longer accept the results of my past actions as my karma. So something on those lines. This verse further elucidates this point. Actions set in motion due to a misconception, such as identification with the body mind, must complete their course, even though we no longer labor under this misconception. Oh no, you did those things, and now you're going to be taken to court because you did some criminal actions 35 years ago. And then the guy is fully liberated. He is the head of a nation. He has thousands of disciples, and he says, no, it's not possible. It's not possible. I'm now a respect guru. I know I did something illegal, but that was before when I was under the spell of total ignorance. But now I am an enlightened being, and look at my devotees and so on. So no, it's going to manifest, and the only option that this guru, this famous guru is to take it, knowing that he's not taking it, accepting it on the body level, you understand, but shifting its identity to the point, to the extent that it says, okay, it goes to the body, it manifests, it's unavoidable, it was sent by me and came back to me. So now I have to leave my ashram here. I have to find somebody to be my successor here. And I have to take some time in jail, so to speak. No future karma will be generated once ignorance is dissolved, but that which has brought this body into being is like an arrow released from the bow. So the same concept. Once this sense of identification, of ownership, of doership, authorship is seen through, is broken, and then the yoni no longer presents actions that are going to generate sanchitas. But how about all those sanchitas that were produced before he was finally convinced that he's not the body and is not the mind. It remains as Sanchita and it manifests as Prabhada, but no future karma, meaning to say no agams and no new Sanchitas are going to be brought into the system, generated into the system once ignorance was properly, yeah, dissolved. But all those sanchitas which were already in the system will remain there, and in due time they are going to be released to become one's parabada karma, one's life situation, one's life circumstance. Nothing will stop it. Self-knowledge will not stop its course, for liberation is for the individual. Karma belongs to the entire field of action. Again, the same point, huh? Karma belongs to Ishvara, is impersonal, is not sentient, it's inert, it's a system of laws. So it's not, it belongs to the entire field of action. As such, it is the property of Ishvara, and Ishvara does not care whether the jiva is liberated or not liberated. That's very, very nice and very, very interesting. Huh? So it brings to the liberated one the same results to everybody when we come into a situation, a circumstance in which we have a collective planetary unfoldment of Prarabdha karma. Shwara does not care that there are some people in there that somehow, deserve a better end. you know? Oh, it's just like I'm going to throw a meteorite right there, and just poof, begin the whole thing again. It's a planetary thing. It's a collective, universal karma in this small planet, for example. So it's not personal. Self-knowledge will not stop its course, the course of one's personal action. Liberation is for the individual. The individual alone is liberated. There is no such a thing as collective liberation. Everybody shifting, as people tend to say, like, oh, everybody's going to enlighten together, you get enlightened together. So there is no such a thing. Liberation is for the individual, and it's the fructification of one's personal individual efforts. Karma belongs to the entire field of action because everything in the field is impacting everything else. It's a huge system. And it belongs to Ishvara. And Ishvara does not care whether the individual is enlightened, liberated, or totally ignorant. Okay, it's going to send to him, and then the one who is liberated has to say, thank you, but it came too late. I think too late it's a nice way to look at it. I mean, it counts, but it's too late because. So now I got it. I was paying for certain things here that it was not really my responsibility. Somehow, we know that the jiva also has its own parcel of responsibility, but for as long as you're still identified with the system, once you no longer identifies with this huge matrix, vasanas and then desires, actions, and then results of actions and vasana. Once you no longer identify with this matrix, and then it's over. And then you are no longer responsible. In that sense, you are no longer responsible. The actions that was done before was done by Ishvara, and the individual jiva was under the spell of avidya, and he did things that have fructified with as bad results and good results here and there, and this was all due to this avidya, due to this guy doing actions under the spell of Maya. So once I understand the system and I'm free from that identification, and then I can tell, like, okay, I don't feel any guilt. I don't feel any remorse or resentment or anything, But this I'm talking firsthand experience, It's just like the whole thing, is seen from a different vision or angle in a way that there is no sense of feeling guilt for anything or feeling vain or proud of anything. You understand? It's all being done by Ishvara according to these laws in which the Shivas are there, attached to the body with the sense of doership, doing actions, owning the actions, owning the results until it no longer does so. And then the thing comes and say, okay, there is nobody to own this Parabada karma. Okay, David?
I'm just thinking, is she defined Jiva Mukti? Is that a my assumption is that you can go in and out of that. Like a jiva goes in and out of being a jiva mukti. I mean, liberation, ideally, it is a constant state. And yet, in reality, or in apparent reality, is it something that kind of like you fluctuate? Sometimes you're in it and sometimes you're not. And how does that play out in this?
Well, that's also, again, very interesting, subtle point you are making there. So, self knowledge, as we have looked into it several times, is a hard and fast and firm, clear understanding of my true nature, identity as consciousness, not the mind and not the body. This is self knowledge. Okay? So, the fructification of this self knowledge is a sense of freedom and limitlessness, which is born from out of this shift of identity with consciousness and consciousness alone. You understand? So, to the degree that this identification with consciousness as consciousness is firm, one experience, to a certain extent, a lot of sense of freedom and limitlessness and a sense of total of being unconcerned about anything that's happening, indifferent to whatsoever adversities we may be facing and so on. But as you have brought into this conversation, self-knowledge, it is hard and fast, but it can be subject to rajas and tamas. You understand? So even the mind of the yoni here and there can be subject to some rajas and tamas that produce a certain response or reaction, which is not the best possible demonstration of limitlessness or detachment or discrimination and dispassion and so on. These things happen, and it's part of our humanity. It's part of being a human being, subject to rajas and tamas, subject to a lot of adversities. So we need to look into self-knowledge and liberation as a process in which all this influence of rajas and tamas of avidya gradually diminish until it visit us with less and less frequency. And when it comes more and more superficially, and we recover from it more and more quickly. You understand? So this is the way Swami Paramarthananda presents this process of assimilation of self-knowledge. You understand? And of course, it's much easier want to experience less and less rajas and tamas if one lives a life in an ashram, as a swami, as a swamini, you know, with the mind all the time in the scriptures, then only propagating or meditating or doing one's pujas and so on, and chanting the name of the Lord and so on. So it depends a lot on one's lifestyle. So the real challenge is to be a householder and hold this knowledge firm at all times, in spite of a lot of, influence of rajas and tamas, which comes as we interact with the world. You understand, David? So what is moksha? That's why I never like to present moksha as something like black and white. Moksha is freedom from ignorance, which is freedom from rajas and tamas, which is freedom from strong, negative, violent reactions, to adversities, for example, or strong positive reactions when things are really going the way we want. You can see that the person is ignorant even when the person is receive good punya, and then start getting really so happy and excited because, oh, my life is so wonderful. Geez, I feel in heaven. And you look and say, "Ooh," the same ignorance, the person is just being affected by the results, and being impacted, and it's reacting strongly. You understand? Is not really experience that peace, that shanti, which is something more like equanimity in respect to all sorts of possible results. Okay, and this is where we go measuring our degree of moksha, our degree of freedom, which is different from self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is a certainty in respect to what I am. You understand? Which is a direct, immediate seeing, no, quote unquote. It is a direct self-knowledge, it's immediate aparoksha jnana, okay? So you see it, you have no doubt, but that does not necessarily make someone absolutely pure and absolutely immune to any possible reactions or overreactions, depending on the circumstance of our parabodha karma. You understand? This is a good question, and I remember Nisargadatta Maharaj commenting on these things because I stayed years studying Nisargadatta Maharaj. And he used to say that these residuals or these remainings, of aspects of our character, he did not know how to teach Vedanta, of course, He used to put it as remains so of aspects of our personality may come through, but immediately the yani recompose himself or herself because this knowledge is clear. And again, it's present to offset and to correct whatsoever reactions we may have. So again, Swami Paramarthananda says that this knowledge is going to create roots and being assimilated and produce more and more moksha to the extent that we have less and less reactions. When they happen, it's less and less profound, and the recovery time is quicker and quicker. And then when we see that we are moving that way, he has even a formula that says is RIF or something like that. The intensity and the frequency, the intensity has to go diminish, the frequency has to be diminished, and the reaction, I don't remember, but he likes to teach those waves. He creates those symbols, each letter.
Chinmaya does that too, I think.
Huh? Oh,
Chinmaya.
Shimaya, but Paramarthananda he was very creative. He did it. He did much more into the teachings. He went much more creating those tools, But basically, it's our reactions, our stronger reactions. That if in the past, for example, we would have irritation 3 times a day or anger, and then as we grow, as we have this self-knowledge, instead of 3 times a day, it starts happening 3 times a week and then 3 times a month. You understand? And then not only that, the intensity of those reactions also diminish. Okay? Instead of being a reaction, David, that one is a fact for hours and sometimes days, one may become very depressed, due to something that happened. Some people never recover sometimes. So no, the yearning, he going to recover very, very, very fast. Okay, so it's the reaction is profound, and it recovery time is much faster. You understand? And the frequency it's is less and less. Frequency, the depth, and the recovery time. You understand?
It just seems like there's like there's a stage of total ignorance where you have you have nothing, you have no exposure to the self knowledge, so you're just total ignorance. And then there's this transitory piece where you're starting to get, the ignorance is starting to be reduced, and you're learning, and you're applying, and you're assimilating, and that kind of thing. And then eventually you get to the end, you get to a point where you're totally liberated, which is, I guess, moksha. And and that you reside there. But until that time, until you get to total, what you call it, um, you totally resist constantly in self-knowledge. Until you get to that point, you're in transition.
Well, I, I often I say that there is no such a thing as 100% liberation or 100% freedom or 100% purity. Because the jivan, even the jivan mukta, is still subject to certain reactions which are based or influenced by rajas and tamas here and there. You understand? So here and there we find some beings, some human beings that show a huge level of purity. Again, this is we are talking about two different things here. One is self-knowledge, and the other thing is to become a saint-like. So free moksha is more like become like a saint, you know. And I don't think there is something like 100% sainthood, because our humanity is always there playing something. But we can easily see that there are some yanis that are more purified and they are more saint-like than others. There are some yanis that still have rajas and tamas, or bits and pieces of strong reactions, or ignorance surfacing here and there, which does not cancel their self-knowledge, but only demonstrates that it's one's moksha is not fully developed, because after all, moksha is freedom from these rajas and tamas, or avidya, or those negative reactions, which are definitely a demonstration of subtle ignorance is still operating. You understand? So definitely there are some yanis that are more pure, are more saint-like, okay? But the it's important to understand the self-knowledge is not synonymous of sainthood, or 100% purity. But when we look at our spiritual process, spiritual elevation begins with self-knowledge, and the fructification of self-knowledge, which may take several lifetimes until we elevate ourselves to become almost like a saint, as pure as a human being can be. That's my take. That's how I understand, based on everything I have heard and studied with Paramahansa Ramji and other gurus. Those are two different things, but I tend to believe and to understand and to present moksha as a process that may have an end, or may never have an end, you know, because you may come back again and again, getting a burst which is more and more elevate, more and more elevate, that may serve a certain end, some certain purpose to elevate, you know, the spiritual wisdom of societies, of people, you know, in this planet. So until we may never come back. But it is a fact that what brings us back are our desires and our aversions, our sense of incompletion of things that we want to still accomplish, and with self-knowledge. So one, these desires and fears, they may not have enough energy to bring about to produce again another agent, another body to continue doing karma. But Ishwara may bring us back again for other purpose. That's the sense, that's the understanding of births, which are not due to one's personal karma, but it's due to the karma of the field of the total. You understand? So we need higher, more elevated souls to keep working to uphold dharma and to propagate the good news of this spiritual knowledge and so on. Does it give you a better understanding, David?
I'm going to say a more subtle understanding.
Huh?
I don't, I'm going to say it's a more subtle understanding. I'm not sure I really have a better understanding, as much as I starting to see that moksha is not a state of
But
being.
it's very important. It's very important. I mean, we need, I mean, I find it very, very good to demystify this notion of moksha. Moksha. I have gone through a lot of delusion here and there with people who talk big about moksha. I got moksha, I got moksha. And then when you look a little closer, you know, there are clear evidence, signs of ignorance still operating. You know, wit does not cancel one's self knowledge. You understand? It's the situation of someone say, I don't care for what I do because it's my jiva, and I'm not my jiva. You understand? So I am consciousness. I don't care about my jiva. This is knowledge. The yan is the one that knows. I'm not the jiva. I'm not my mind. I'm not my vasanas. I'm not my karma. I'm not my bad humor. I'm not my bad manners. I'm not my bad words. You understand? But all of that is a demonstration of our purity, of our freedom, of our purification. You know, so it's easy to say I'm none of that, and I'm just consciousness. Therefore, I have self knowledge, and that is the question, and that is the case with the self knowledge and the yani. The yani is the one who knows I'm not. I'm none of these things, but this self-knowledge serves the purpose to bring about a person who lives beautifully and in harmony with the laws, of creation and with everyone and every creatures and the environment and so on. So that is the understanding I get, especially by studying for all these years with Swami Paramarthananda. This knowledge must be fructify or manifest in a way that it purifies or transforms, like Paramarthananda. Paramarthananda goes to extent of saying something that confused some people in our spiritual Vedanta Sampradaya. He says this self-knowledge must transform one's one's personality, one's emotional personality. He goes to that extent. This self-knowledge, in order to be fully assimilated, or once it is fully assimilated, it must transform our emotional personality. What is the emotional personality? So our mind is the entry, is the gate by which we contact the world. So when we receive the stimulus, when we receive the Parabda karma coming from the field, the way we'll receive it and the way we'll respond it says a lot about our spiritual wisdom, our grace, our beauty. You understand? So this emotional personality is, I mean, we have the intellect, and then we have the mind, which is our emotional center, and then we have the ego. So it's the emotional, it's our gate entry, So the way we're going to receive a Parabodhakam, the way we're going to respond, says a lot about our level of purity, our level of spiritual wisdom, our level of emotional balance, as Swami Paramarthananda says, our mental, emotional strength, balance. So it says a lot about our level of moksha, if we want to look into moksha as levels. Otherwise, everybody can say, oh, yes, I know who I am, so I got moksha, and then demonstrate it. You understand? We need to demonstrate it. And the best way to demonstrate it is when we go through a lot of adversities. So there is nothing more difficult than dealing with old age, illness, pain, and death. So if you want to look at the life of an individual and to see how wise, spiritually wise he or she is, look at the way one is going to deal with old age, illness, pain, and death. And then we can see, because this is the ultimate tragedy.
There's a whole discussion group there. I mean,
Huh?
there's a whole discussion group there. I mean, maybe for Thursday, but I mean, just how to deal with their struggles. With it, they're coming. They're part of Mithya, and how we react to them,
Yeah.
and those are our choices, and
Mm-mm. Yeah.
based upon our level of understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very honest person, and I see Shwara present to me my life, and all the time is an opportunity for me to see where I am at. Because, for example, you probably heard me saying, I feel highly elevated if I stay 6 months away from my wife, for example. I feel like, oh my God, I am so pure, I'm so enlightened. Nothing touches here. I mean, I'm floating. And then comes back my little wife, and then my trouble begins. And then I look, oh my God. Again and again, she comes to destroy my enlightenment, my moksha. We have to be honest, we have to see these irritations coming, which is part of our humanity, and then you'll say, oh my God. And I mean, I suspect that it's easier to be enlightened as a swami in an ashram than as a household. I may be wrong, huh? But I suspect.
I mean, that's the appeal of being a sadhu. Yeah, is to
Yeah.
renounce everything and become a sadhu, and live in that, and just be in that, and always be in that, and you're consistently in there, and you've let go of everything. You have no you're totally detached,
Yeah.
and um, so by the fact that we stated as landholders, householders, as we stay attached to think, we stay attached as a householder. And so then can we really achieve, what degree of moksha can we achieve? And or will we be at?
Well, I mean, self-knowledge is possible as a householder, and that's why we have Karma Yoga, especially designed for the householders. We need to take things as prasad, even when our irritations surface or anger or anything, and we know that this is all it's all part of a test. The knowledge is there, and then life brings, it rubs it against us, and then we see the way we are reacting. And the first thought that comes to my mind is to run and become a sadhu. I know that you have been thinking the same way lately, right, David? So this thought comes to my mind as well. I want to become a swami. So I want to go back and just live here and there without having to play the role of a husband, a provider, and dealing with other people, and having to deal with the karmas of my son. My son does not affect much me, although he has so much problems in his life. And as a father, I try to help him, but does not impact me as much as my relationship with Sylvia. So sometimes it feels like, I mean, I don't find myself very much attached, for example, to my wife. But at the same time, it does not feel right for me to say, please go, I want to be a single man. No, it does not feel right. And then I just say, okay, Ishwar, I stay with it. And we'll see where it goes. And the same with my son. There are some cultures that say, no, no, the son and the daughter, once they are 18, no, you don't need to have any involvement. It's yeah, they are 18. It's they are the children of Ishwara. If they go into the streets, if they cannot sustain themselves, if they are in deep problem, it's all right. They are already over 18. They are adults, so you don't need to deal with it. So I come from a culture, a Latin culture, in which we get more involved with children. And my son has 39, and still I'm not psychologically concerned, but I am still helping him. Sometimes with words, but mostly with cash, because otherwise he's in total trouble. So this is the price of being a householder. That's what I mean. Those actions that I gave long ago, I present long ago, and then I got married, I had a child, and they're still fructifying, and they're still having to 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 play. I mean, I'm still playing this role of a father and dealing with whatsoever comes from him, and the same with my wife. Next time, if I come back, I'm not going to be a householder. I'm telling you the truth now, David.
The purpose here is to get to the point where you come back. You're not come back as a householder. And
If I come back, I don't want to come back as a householder.
well, I mean, this really gets back to the 4Ds. Like you talk about karma yoga, but like the 4Ds too. And how do we live as householders? And we apply the 4Ds. So that the discernment, the detachment, the discipline, and the devotion.
Well, the 4Ds are not, the 4Ds is discernment or discrimination, and then dispassion, which is a byproduct of a proper discrimination, which begins discrimination between Dharma and Adharma, and then it grows to become a discrimination between Satya and Mithya. Okay, so this discrimination it produces dispassion, and dispassion being the byproduct of discrimination. It needs to be followed by a life lived with discipline, because ignorance is very sneaky. So even if you do a lot of discernment, and if you have developed good dispassion, a sense of balance, emotional balance, equilibrium, and still, if our goal is moksha, we better go and we practice some disciplines to control our mental, our mental activities, the control of thoughts and our sense organs, our reactions, our words, our deeds, our reception, So all these disciplines are going to bring about some other qualifications. You understand? The ability to this is basically this mental emotional strength to deal with life, especially as a householder. It requires some discipline of control, which Paramarthananda likes to present it better as regulation, because control is a word that can be mistaken as suppression. So we need to be smart, moderate, and regulate our our thoughts, our words, our deeds, our our instruments of reception and instruments of action. And all of that is going to bring about the fourth D. The fourth D is desire, it's not devotion. Okay. The fourth D is desire. And this desire is desire for self-knowledge, desire for understanding one's true nature. Okay. So this is the fourth D. These are the qualifications for self-knowledge. And the fourth D, which is this intense desire for self-knowledge, is the most important, because you can have a very, very qualified mind or intellect with a lot of discrimination, a lot of dispassion, and you can be very disciplined. But if you don't have a desire for self-knowledge, okay, so these qualifications are going to serve other purpose in one's life. And one is going to be more successful in the world, definitely, because you have a qualified mind to have success in the world. The fourth D comes to take those qualifications into one's spiritual realization, you understand? Because you have all of that, and and you're going to go for self-knowledge and moksha. Does it make sense, David?
It makes sense. I was kind of thinking about you put desire at the end, like a list, and it's not really meant to be a linear list. Um,
No, none of this is linear. They overlap, and they come simultaneously. Some people may have this strong desire, and without having much of the other qualifications developed, but the desire is so big that's going to facilitate the development of the other qualifications. You understand? So it depends. In my case, as I have shared with you guys, sometimes my qualifications was they were not very good, but I had this strange desire, that somehow helped me in the development of mental qualifications. You understand? I tend to say that the intense desire for liberation from ignorance, from samsara, is the most important, because it's going to empower the individual to do the work to develop the other qualifications. You understand? You need to have a lot of desire for self knowledge and moksha. I mean, people who have a small desire, they when they look, they come to Vedanta and they get the picture, the understanding of what it takes to go through to defeat this cosmic universal ignorance, when you get the picture of the entire system, this matrix and the way the jiva is operate to perpetuate and to feed into the system, you know, and how to come out of it, it requires so much effort. Unless we have a lot of desire, we may go for a bit and then we may step out of the Vedanta bus and then we go for a ride somewhere else. Right, Karen?
I'm no, I'm trying to stay on the Vedanta bus. I'm just know I need to keep working on those qualifications and clear mind, and it's a journey.
It's a nice journey. What else to do in life? I mean, this is the best game.
Yes,
Mm.
it is.
Spiritual elevation is the best game in town, the best way to live one's life.
But like you say, it takes a lot of work.
Yes, but when it takes a work until work becomes a passion. When you work is a passion, you no longer feels it to be a load or something heavy. You know, it's your passion. It's my life, isn't it? If one likes what one does, it does not feel like heavy. Yeah.
Very true.
Now you're talking about that burning desire again.
Yeah, this is the fourth D, burning desire, intense desire. And why it is burning? The word burning there, it's very significant because it is a flame. It means it's light that's going to gradually, you know, finish up all darkness, ignorance. It's light, knowledge that's going to dismiss or dissipate ignorance. But it also means that it's a flame, it's a light, it's a flame, fire. And what fire does is to burn. So when we say a burning desire, it burns inside of the individual in a way that it ends up becoming obsessed about discovering for sure once for all one's true nature. But it's a burning flame that burns all other desires as well. You understand? It may sound like strange that desire, which is a problem, is present as the most important qualification, but this is a desire that is going to burn all other desires. And then what we have? We have an intensity, which is what usually takes, you understand, to see through and to really have this clarity, this revelation. It's you are not clouded by many other desires. So your desire is to know what you are, to know for sure. Understand? So, and then it's no longer desire among many others. So it's a burning desire because it burns all other desires until it becomes one single desire. You understand? This is it's very beautiful metaphor. You know. It takes usually that kind of intensity to come out, to break out of samsara. You understand? Yeah, and this desire may begins a little flame, but you know what's the fuel that makes this flame grow? The other desires. Yeah. And then when you see the other desires do not appeal anymore to you, and then you can see that your flame is growing. Or say, oh my God, I used to enjoy and I want so much this and that, and now these things are not appealing to me anymore. You know, it means that your desire for self-knowledge has already consumed those other levels of desire. You know. So it grows by consuming, and the other desires, they serve as fuel for this burning desire, you understand? It's very nice. Okay, my friends. I mean, most probably you notice I'm a little bit off and tired today, and I have left my little wife. We live 300 kilometers from here, and it is quite a trip to come here. And we live so deep in the interior, in the middle of almost nowhere. We call it the end of the world. That the price there is so expensive that coming here to do shopping is well worth the money. And since we are coming from Rio de Janeiro, we are stopping here today and tomorrow to fill up our car, to take things for the house that is still missing, so that we can, because we came here with 4 suitcases. I came with 2 suitcases, basically some clothes. So we are having to put up house here. Life is very strange. I have a house, I have a full setup. I have so much stuff in the USA in a garage of a good friend of mine who owned me quite some favors and money. And it's sitting there. I could easily put up a house. I have a lot of stuff in Italy that we left behind, that a house was set up with things there. And here I find myself again buying pots and pans and things like that to put up another home here. Ruth the other day was telling me that I should come to the USA, and I wish, because there I have already all the pots and pans and clothes and everything there. But then I explained Ruth that the reason that we left the USA and that the reason I don't want to go to the USA is that we would need to work to make the money, because the money, the budget we live with, it's not, it's about half or less than half of what we would need to stay in Olympia, Washington, for example, much more in Carbondale, because it's a more expensive town. So the reason we left the USA is because I became lazy, in the sense that I don't want to work anymore. The restaurant was really being tough on my body. And Sylvia deceived me because she's younger and she has more rajas, more energy. And she promised that once we stop, and then I am going to find a part-time job to supplement the money for us to live in Europe or anywhere we want, you know. But then she got the taste of not working at early age. I mean, she was very young when we sold the restaurant. She was maybe 50, 40, 47. And now she does not want to work anymore. So we stay here because here we manage to live with our dollars. They stretch a little bit more here. Okie dokie. So we meet again next Thursday. I will be back to my new home, and we do our Q&A. And now I have to rush back to the shopping mall because Sylvia is there doing shopping, and I have to go there and pick her up and so on. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, everyone. Is Mark still with us? Yes, no? Who is in here? I don't know. Okay. Arrivederci. See you next.
Arrivederci.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.
Claudio, parlando in italiano. Bye bye.
Così possiamo fare qualche lezione in italiano con qualche italiano.
Sì.
Sì, impari, dai. Ciao.
Ciao ciao.